My name is Georgina Brewis and I'm a senior lecturer in the History of Education here at UCL Institute of Education, and I teach history courses across UCL, so within UCL History Department and at IOE as well. My Liberating the Curriculum project is called Diversifying the Curriculum. It's a staff-student partnership to select archival material for use in teaching and learning across 2 faculties. The idea of the project is to create new teaching and learning resources for use in seminar groups with students from next academic year by employing a research assistant to identify some archival materials and to run workshops with students to help select how we might use that in class. So the main issues that I teach modern British history, generally between 1914 and 1985, and I work and I teach and research on groups that maybe don't have a very strong presence in the secondary literature. So there's a lot of great archival material that we can access about disadvantaged groups, young people, people from ethnic minorities, gay young people, and NGOs and charities. But there's not a lot of secondary literature about all of those groups, and so in my teaching I like to use a lot of archival materials, a lot of primary sources, and so the idea was to select a very kind of diverse range of primary sources that would better reflect both the diversity of the groups that we are learning about, but also the diversity of the student body here at UCL. Hopefully, I think the project's been really well received. I've been really pleased with some of the archival materials that my research assistant, Charlotte Clements, has managed to find. And the students have really responded very positively to some of those new sources, which include stories of gay teenagers, stories from black youth clubs in the 1960s and 70s, material from people living in children's homes in the early 20th century. So a really rich range of sources that students wouldn't encounter in other types of study, and that they really need the primary sources to be kind of selected and curated and provided for them. And I think students have really engaged with looking at some of those stories in the workshops that we've held. So it links in several ways. Of course, it's very much research-led teaching, so all of the courses that I teach and all of the topics are linked to my own personal research interests and my research and my writing. It also links in other ways by the idea of kind of object handling. So as part of the grant, I've been collecting some objects from the history of charities and voluntary organisations in the 20th century to use with students in a session where we look at those objects as a way into studying the history of charity and NGOs. So one of the things I've used my LTC grant for is to go on eBay and to find a whole range of different objects that I can use in teaching and learning from next year. So I've been purchasing things like postcards written by people who went to stay at a youth hostel back to their parents, a tray that was produced by blind soldiers in the First World War under a kind of charity scheme, and various kind of campaigning badges from the anti-apartheid movement, etc. And the idea is that students will be able to take this box of different objects that tell the history of charity and the history of voluntary organisations. They'll be able to look through and pick up an object and kind of really identify with the person that maybe wore that badge on a march, or made that tray as a blind serviceman in the First World War. And they'll be able to kind of think, hopefully it will prompt them to think of some different questions about the history of NGOs and charities. It might make them think about bigger themes within those, within the subject that we're studying. And hopefully it'll really, the idea of this is to really make them engage with the learning in a really good way. And we've tested that out with students in the workshops. And some of them have said that by kind of holding the object and really kind of imagining who might have worn this and why they might have done that, it's really made them, it's really kind of fixed in their memory much more about that particular topic.